Awesome. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. We have a good group here. Again, thank you all for joining. My name is Sarah Cablano. I am on our product marketing team here at Maze. So you might have seen me on a webinar or two before if you've joined any of these. And I'm excited to be joined today by my colleague, Mattieu. So Mattieu, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Mathieu. I'm product researcher here at Maze. So it's kind of meta because I'm doing research for a tool that help product people to conduct research. I'm using our own tool, to help the product team, so the product managers, the product designers, to take the best decision regarding the roadmap. Thanks to the feedback that you can share with us to get the best knowledge possible regarding, your user needs, the market, the different opportunities that we may have. And that explains why I'm here, because I have different use cases to present to you how we use our own product, of course.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, so before we jump into content, of course, a few housekeeping items. As always, this session is recorded. You'll get it into your email about 24 hours from now, so tomorrow. No worries, it's all recorded and you'll get it in your email automatically. Second, we have time at the end for Q&A, so use the Q&A section of the webinar portal to ask questions. We have a big group here today, so definitely recommend upvoting others so that we know what's really important to you all. And then if you do ask questions in the chat, we're able to move them to the Q&A, but it's much easier for us to keep track if you ask them in the dedicated Q&A section. And then finally, we have a docs section in the webinar as well. And we'll be adding we have some Maze resources in there already. And we also have a link to our next webinar, which will be an exciting thought leadership webinar with some leaders across the industry. So definitely check that out. For our agenda today, we're going to do a quick introduction to the Maze platform for those who may be less familiar with Maze. So we'll start there. Then Mathieu will go into the power of prototype testing. We'll do a live demo of Maze's prototype testing capabilities, and then finish up with some tips and tricks for choosing the best method for your goals and some Maze on Maze use cases. And then at the very end, we'll use the remaining time for Q&A. So with that, I will go ahead and jump into our introduction to Maze. What we hear constantly from leaders across the digital product space is that their teams are not doing enough research because they're under pressure to meet deadlines, and they really worry that research is going to slow them down. So too often teams are facing this choice to either build products quickly or ship products quickly or get user insights. And so we believe this is really a false choice. And you don't need to choose between building fast and building right, especially when you're using a tool like Maze. That's because Maze is the user research platform that empowers any company to build the right products faster by making user insights available at the speed of product development. So for us, this means a few things. First is get insights in hours, not weeks. So with Maze, teams can create studies in minutes, recruit the right audience, and get rapid insights. So we'll go through all of that today with respect to prototype testing in particular. Second is research is hard, but Maze is easy. So we don't want to sugarcoat it. We understand that research is complex, but we also understand that researchers really want their research to scale and make an impact across their organizations. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that research tools are easy to use for anyone. And that's why Maze is designed to be really intuitive with a complete research workflow that anyone can use to do all of their research. So I hope you'll see that also today when we go through our demo. And then the third one here is decisions, not just data. So we've seen that for too long in the user research space, these tools have helped teams collect massive amounts of data, typically in the form of video content, and then leave researchers with the painstaking task of rewatching all those videos to analyze and then even building reports after the fact. Maze, on the other hand, likes to do a lot of that heavy lifting for our customers to really speed up that analysis so they can quickly and easily involve stakeholders, present compelling evidence, and make an impact on company decisions. Let's zoom in a little bit on the Maze platform. So we use these three pillars when we talk about the Maze platform, so recruit, research, and analyze. So first, in terms of recruitment, we know that quality insights start with quality participants. We're not going to focus a lot on recruitment today, but just know that there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you get participants into your studies in Maze. So you can hire third-party panelists from our panel partners or use our flexible recruitment tools to send links, use in-product prompts, target your customers through email campaigns. It's really easy to get the right audience into your Maze tests. But like I said, today we won't focus too much on this area. We'll focus a lot more on these second two pillars. So research, Maze is going to give you the flexibility to mix and match research methods so that you can get exactly the insights you need at every stage of development. So this means you can choose the best approach for your learning goals, whether that's prototype testing, which we'll focus on today, surveys, information architecture, interview studies, you name it, we can do it, and we like to make it really easy for you. And then third is analyze. So we know that research data needs to be structured in a way that's easy to use or easy to interpret. Otherwise, it won't be used to drive decisions. So everywhere in Maze, we really combine quantitative and qualitative data to speed up that analysis, as well as offer automated reporting features. So today I'm excited to show you how that applies to prototype testing with success metrics, heat maps, user journey diagrams, and recordings that are all going to help speed up that analysis process. And now I'll pass it to Mattieu to talk a little bit about the power of prototype testing.
Yes, I wanted to have an introduction regarding the prototype stage, because it's never been easier to build high fidelity, prototype with the last innovations coming from the prototype providers, such as Figma, for example, that may look closely to the end solution of your developed product. So it can be easy to fall in love, with your ideas, with the design solution that you may have in mind in really early stage. And hearing a user need, but just say, okay, a customer wants this, let's do that rapidly on a prototype by jumping directly into the solution phase of the product development. So this is a temptation, of course, to skip over the messier, stage of the complicated problem space, of course. So the question that we always ask ourselves, here at Maze is, why should we do it? Why now? What's the opportunity cost of not doing something else? What impact is this going to have for customers? How does it resonate with them? And that explains why at Maze, we are adamant that you always need a clear delineation between the problem and the solution, because it's important to uncover the problem space area to take the best decision possible. Even here at Maze, even if we're using our own product, we can't represent every context of our customers, of our users. Of course, we have big empathy regarding, the improvements or the next opportunity that we could solve, of course, but we need to understand the root of the user problems in every context possible to make sure that we deliver inclusive solution. And sometimes a problem can require several solutions, or a solution can solve different problems, of course. So at every stage of this process, we use Maze to rapidly get the information from our users to de-risk the decision we want to take. And you can do that also with your users. Because what costs you the most is not the discovery phase. If you're going to have, it will be the engineering time to deliver the solution, but also the other underlying costs that you may have, such as internal education, to correctly use or sell the product, the marketing costs, the customer onboarding, etc. So in an ideal world, prototype help you to avoid reworking solution to increase the global cost. So it's make sure that you have the best return on investment and you avoid reworking on things that you already did, and making sure that your customers, your users are satisfied with the solution that you had in mind, because you built the right one. So this is where Maze help, is to make sure that you're going directly into the right solution, of course. And prototype can be really helpful because it can help you to anticipate the different friction areas and to avoid reworking, that human time if you had to rework on solution that don't solve the solution in the best way. So prototype can be used at different stage of the product development. It can be used as a usability, because this is always what we think about. When we think about prototype, we easily think about the usability testing method, but it's not the only one. And I wanted to highlight also the concept stage. happens, earlier in the process, and it can help you, to uncover, validate, the user problem, or even ideate the different solution that you may have in mind. And I have different use case that we had internally that I can show you. So the concept test is a process to validate the ideas in the concept, as I said. It's better to have a prototype, to have a stimulus, because even if it's a low fidelity support, such as sketch, wireframes, or really less interactive prototype, it can only help the participant to project themselves with the idea that you have. So it's easier to collect better feedback because you can have an alignment with what you have in mind. You're not just pitching an abstract idea, you're projecting it with a prototype. So even if it's sketches or wireframes, it can help you to focus on the needs, on the desirability, and the product market fit. It can help you, to answer to several questions, such as, what are participants' first impressions? Does the proposed idea intrigue participants? How do participants understand the concept, for example? Are there any aspect that was, confusing to the participant? How well does it concept, align with the customer needs or expectation that they may have, with your product, with your service? What kind of vocabulary, do participants use to define the concept? It can be really helpful for the UX writing part or even the marketing part. So it's not only, aesthetical, solution. It can be also really be deep, into the terms of vocabulary and the usage. What initial improvements you could detect, to iterate on your first solution that you may have in mind, or how it could help you, to select the one that is working and resonates the most, with people, or what are the primary concept that that have been expressed by the testers, of course. So here, the idea is to select the one that resonates the most with your participants, and detect if there are any iteration before going to the next step. Then regarding the usability testing, it's a method that will help to evaluate how easily user can interact with and navigate a product or an interface. It's something that has more connection, more interaction, and you will try to replicate as much as possible the fidelity of the end product, of the end service, to have this quality label to make sure that it's intuitive, it's working well, it's usable for the participants. So here it's to evaluate the ease of use and the efficiency of your design solution. It can be mid or high fidelity. The more fidelity you have, the more confidence you're going to have, of course, in the feedback you collect. So it can also be even outside of prototype. Here I was focusing on prototype, but it can be even on pre-stage environment or even on the live product. Of course, prototype help you to anticipate and to work on new solution that would, avoid to invest in engineering time if you don't have, the agility or the time to do that. Of course, to do that really rapidly. So here we focus more on the navigation, the task completion, the different interaction, and the detailed feedback that you can get with the almost end solution that you have just before the development stage. So here we can it can be helpful to answer several questions, such as, how intuitive is the interface? Are users able to complete a task easily and without frustration, without any assistance from your side? How long does it take for them to complete the key task? Can a user easily find what they're looking for? Are users satisfied with their overall experience? Are there any areas or confusion in the user interface? How does the interface accommodate with the different users' level of expertise, of maturity? You can distinguish the different perspective with new users, with non-users, with more expert, mature users, just to compare also the different level of usability. So here it is. It was just a really short introduction regarding the prototype testing. I'll give the mic to Sarah to show you how it works directly into our product.
Awesome. Thanks, Mattieu. All right, so now we'll go into our live demo here. So I'll switch my screen up a little bit. So for today, I'm going to focus on all the different ways that you can do prototype testing in Maze. So I think what you'll see as we go through is, one, how easy these tests are to set up in Maze, two, how smooth the participant experience is, and how we really maximize and accelerate the insights that you get from every test by merging quantitative and qualitative data wherever possible. So I'm going to start off with my new maze here. So I just created a maze, and on the left-hand side is where I'll be adding all the different blocks or questions to my maze. In the middle is where I do all the customization. And then on the right is where we can see a participant preview. So let's start by adding a block. And there's two different ways to start building a prototype test in Maze. So the first option is pretty obvious here. So to add a prototype test, this is if you just want to test a single prototype and for usability or concept testing. So we'll look at this here in just a moment. And then we also have a variant comparison. So this is if you have multiple designs or flows that you want to compare, you add a variant comparison block. So as you can see here, then we can add as many variants. So if I have up to 5 different designs that I want to test, I can then add those variants and add prototype tests within them. So we'll look at this a little bit in more detail when we get to the results, but just know that these are the two options for how you can create a prototype test in Maze. So I'm going to start for sake of time by just creating a simple prototype test. And I've actually already added my Figma prototype in here, but just know that we integrate with a lot of different prototype testing or prototyping tools, and you just have to paste the link to the prototype in, or you can import it with a plugin. So those are the two options for how to get that prototype in. And then once it's in, you'll see it here on the right-hand side, and it's clickable, of course. So the first thing to do now that we have our prototype in here is to decide what type of test we want to run based on the goal of our study. So the first option I'll talk about here is what we call free exploration. So this is where you can do that early stage concept testing that Mattieu was talking about, gathering authentic user journeys, attitudes, and behaviors without constraints or specific goals. So if we chose this one, we could simply ask participants to, let's say, explore the new interface. And they could freely explore this prototype and just end the task when they're done. So pretty simple. The other option is a goal-based task. So this is more for the usability testing use case. And there's actually 2 different options for goal-based that we offer here. So you can either choose to define the goal as reaching a specific screen in your flow or following an exact path. So obviously, reaching a specific screen means that you're flexible about how they get to the end goal. You just want to make sure that they complete the task, versus following an exact path means that you have a particular path that you want them to follow, and we'll evaluate success based on that. So what we'll see when we get to the results is that they're going to be tailored based on the type of task that we select here. So for both options, you'll get user journey maps, heat maps, click data, recordings if you'd like, and but for goal-based, you'll also get success metrics based on the goals that we have selected. So I'm going to choose to follow an exact path to set ours up, and what I want to do in order to follow the path, I am going to define it by clicking through the prototype. So I want the participant to respond to a message from their host. This is consider it like an Airbnb type app. So I'll just click through the path I want to take, and then I'm good. I just need to tell the participant what to do. So I'll say reply to the message from your host. All right, so now we've set up our prototype test. Just a couple things to add here before we flip to the participant perspective. As I mentioned earlier, you can mix a lot of different methods in Maze. So if you want to also gather your users' opinions after they take the test, we could add an opinion scale, for example. So I'll say, rate your experience with the task. I can use AI to suggest alternative phrasing for this question in case I'm introducing any leading bias or there's a better way to phrase it. So I'll apply the AI suggestion there. And then let me just set up my opinion on a scale of 5. And then just to make sure I get as much data as I possibly can, I'm also going to add an open question that says to explain your rating. And I'm going to add an AI follow-up. So what these allow us to do is that as a person answers an open question, Maze will read their response and dive deeper by asking a follow-up question. So just a few options. Obviously, there's a lot of different question types that you can add in a Maze here. The last thing that I will do is turn on my clip settings. So I want to make sure I'm getting all the qualitative data that I possibly can. So I'm going to record screen, audio, and video. and I'm going to enable this think aloud education and make it mandatory. So I want to make sure all my participants that take my test are recording themselves and thinking out loud so I can get all of that data. All right, so I've now set up my test. I've enabled all the settings I want, and I'm going to start testing. So I'm going to just use AI to suggest a name and make this easy. And now we're going live. So now let's take a look at the participant experience so you can see just how smooth and easy the browser-based participant experience is. I mentioned recruitment earlier. You can see here there's a lot of different ways to get participants to take your test. I'm going to just do this simple maze link. So now let's pretend I'm the participant, and we'll see what it's like for the participant here. So the first thing that Maze is going to do is it's going to request my permissions to record. So we'll see it test there. Hi. And then I can screen share. I've got everything set up and enabled. The first thing that I'll see as a participant is my think out loud tips. So this really helps to increase the rate of think out loud we've found with our participants. So if someone's not as familiar with testing, or they just need a reminder that this is what you're looking for, there's this video that will walk them through the process and some tips here. And so once they get through that, then they're inside the test. So now we can see our prototype test here. So this is what it's like as a participant. Here's their task, and I can let follow it through. So I know what the path is, so pretty easy for me to click through. And now that I've completed it, it recognizes that it's done. If for some reason I wasn't able to complete the task, I could end it early, and that would be a mission unfinished. And then I get that opinion scale. So I'll rate and then explain my rating. Let's say I couldn't find the menu. Maze AI then, because I set up that AI follow-up question, it reads my response and asks a question to dive a little bit deeper. So then I would be inclined to give a little bit more detail. I'll just skip it for now though. And so that's how easy the participant experience is. Obviously, this was a pretty simple maze, but just to get you an idea of what that looks like. So now if I go back into my maze on the builder side and refresh here, the results are going to come in immediately. We can see we have one that was started and completed, and all of our results have already come in, including our recording here. So I'm going to actually go to a different test that has a lot more data in it so that we can see how the results are really tailored based on the type of test that we're running. So what I did here is I set up different prototype tests with all the different use cases that I talked about a little bit earlier. So this first prototype test was a screen-based. The second one is a path-based. The third one is a free explore, and the fourth one is a variant comparison. So I'll walk through how the results are a little bit different depending on the type that we selected. So again, the first one was screen-based. So this means that we set a goal of reaching a particular screen, but we didn't care how the participant got there. But since we did set a goal, we do have success metrics here at the top. So our success rate is based on the number of participants that completed that task. So they reached that goal screen. Anyone who didn't complete the task is in a drop-off. And then also we have misclick rates and average duration here. When we look at the results, there's two different ways to look at them. So one of them is the paths. So I can look at everyone who had success and what their paths were here and dive into the different heat maps and even the recordings. I can also look at who didn't finish and where did they get stuck here. But what I think is a little more interesting and exciting is the Sankey diagram. So this is going to be color-coded so that at a glance, you can get an idea of your users' journeys. And so we can see the green obviously indicates where users were successful in the prototype, even where they reached success, and the red obviously indicates the drop-off. At any point in the Sankey diagram, I can click into the screen that the participant was on and see what the heat maps looked like, as well as flip over to the different clicks, as well as watch the video clips so that we can see what participants are experiencing, what their reactions were, etc. A couple other things just down here for completeness. You can go by screen looking at those heat maps. You can also watch the entire participant, their entire session right there. So we can click, if we want to see the success ones or the mission unfinished, we can click in to see what their reactions were as they went through, or maybe why someone took a little bit longer. We can watch that as well. So the second one here is the path-based. So this was similar to the last one, but we had a defined path that we wanted the user to follow. So we have those same success metrics up here, but now we have a slight difference in terms of what success means. So if we look at our diagram, for example, we've added a third color, and that is for indirect success. So now we can see who had direct success by following our exact path. Indirect success is where they reached the end screen, but they did not follow the path that we wanted them to. And then, of course, mission unfinished is still the same. So as well, when you look at the paths, you can also see the different categories here. So again, really easy to at a glance take a look at what user journeys were and dive into any of those different screens with the heat maps and clips. The third option was the free explorer. So this was where we did not define success at all. We just wanted people to explore the prototype and see where they were drawn to. So now you'll notice there are no success metrics at the top here because we did not define success, and our diagram does not have the same color coding because there was no success again. So there were no drop-offs because we did not define an end goal. So in this one, the goal is really to see what participants were drawn to, and you can do the same thing here, where you look at the different heat maps and see on each screen what exactly were they drawn to. And again, those video clips are even more helpful here because we're able to see what their reactions were, and if they're thinking out loud as we give them instructions to do, we'll be able to hear those reactions and their thoughts as they go through the exploration. Oops, I don't know what I clicked here. Sorry about that. So that's our free exploration. Again, you have the same information that you have on all the others with the mission screens and watching the videos. The fourth and final option here was the variant comparison. So if you'll recall from a little bit earlier in the demo, this is where you can test multiple different prototypes and get the results compared side by side. So in this example, I had two different navigations that I wanted to test. So one is a hamburger menu and one is a tab bar menu. And I gave participants the same task and asking them to reply to the message from their host. And then I wanted to see which one is more intuitive and usable. So within each variant, I had a prototype test that was path-based, followed by an opinion scale, so I could see how they would rate their experience. So we can, of course, dive into the prototype test and get those same success metrics and paths. But what I think is more interesting is the summary view, where Maze takes all those results and compares them side by side so that we can at a glance understand which one performed better. So in the case of this test, we can see that the tab bar menu navigation had higher direct success with 60%. And it also didn't have any drop-offs or missions unfinished versus the hamburger did have people that were unable to finish the mission. So at a glance, we may make the decision to move forward with the tab bar menu navigation because it performed better. We also have our misclick rates to help support that, as well as average duration. So just a few other data points available. Finally, since we added that opinion scale, after the prototype test, we also asked participants to rate their experience, and their preferences also supported what we saw in the prototype, with the tab bar menu scoring higher than the hamburger menu. So as you can see, variant comparison is just another way of testing prototypes in Maze, especially if you have multiple designs that you want to compare and get an understanding of which one is performing better with participants. So that's the demo today. I know it was quick and a lot of information. I'm sure there are a ton of questions that we'll get to at the end. But I will go back to our slides here and pass it back to Mattieu to finish us off with tips and tricks on selecting the best method for your use cases.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, for this product demo. So yes, we have seen that we had the free explore, solution that give, the time, and it requests, for the tester, for the participant to define when he wants to go to the next step. And then we have the goal-based solution where you can define a specific end screen or a specific path. And I wanted to show you in which use cases that we had internally to define which one we choose. So with the pre-explorer, it's helpful for you if you are at a stage where first impression and overall flow are critical. Sarah, if you can just go to the next step. Yes, thank you very much. It's also helpful if you want to observe how users naturally interact with the prototype without any task-specific guidance. You want to test the usability maybe, but if you give the free explorer, it's a way to see how people would succeed, that without having any guidance from your side. And it's also a way if you want to determine if users can recognize on their own if they successfully completed the task. So it can be really helpful, for concept test, if you want to give, the time and the free exploration aspect of the prototype. But it also can be helpful if you have a specific task in mind, just to detect if people can do that without any guidance, or if people can, define themselves, they successfully conducted the task. So I wanted to present you a first use case where we had a product designers who wanted to challenge the architecture of the information and the word that we are using in a user flow during the tester recruitment. So he created a prototype of our interface, and he challenged, the people to define which words they would use, and which one resonates the most with them, to make sure that it's clear enough, for them regarding the different step of the user flow. So free exploration here was really helpful because it gave users the freedom and the time to engage with the label and the context, to have the time to consume every aspect of the different user flow, and understanding why these vocabulary, the terms are really impactful, in the process, and to collect genuine feedback, on what resonates or what was unclear for them. So the prototype gave user an opportunity to play with the different solution ideas. And it was really interesting because it was a time for them to easily consume the information and making sure that it's clear for them, to make sure that we get the best follow-up questions, answers, of course, because if it's too fast, if they just rush, the task, it's more complex, to get really great feedback. For the second use case, we used a combination of free explorer and variant comparison in order to test different early stage concepts. So here it's kind of meta because the product designers who worked on that was as a designer who worked on the variant comparison, and she used the variant comparison, feature of our product to test different concepts of results that come from the variant comparison. If you can go to the next slide, thanks, Sarah. The prototype gave the user here the opportunity to play with the different solution ideas. There was a question in the chat that asked about the variant comparison. Here it was a consecutive comparison. So we decided to confront people to the different versions, and half of the people had an order from version A to version B, and the other part of the people had the version B first and then the version A, to make sure that we avoid any biases in the result. So here the free exploration was advantageous because they could take the time to read everything and decide how they felt ready to jump into the follow-up questions, to make sure that they understand correctly and play enough time with the different versions to compare them in a correct way, of course. In the end, it helped the product designers to get really interesting feedback and to define which solution was more useful and more impactful. And here we're defining that the chart was more helpful and resonated more, with our users in comparison to a summary. Here it was related to the result of the open-ended question, because we wanted to compare the results. And at a glance, it was easier for our users in that case to have the bar charts with the themes attributed, to each answers. For the third use case, it's another use case related to the variant comparison, because before building the variant comparison solution, we had several ideas in mind to define it, to concrete that directly into our maze builder. So the part of our product where we are creating the maze. And the product designers had several ideas on prototypes. And we have here at Maze what we call the feedback Fridays. So every 2 Fridays, we try to reach out to users, to recruit them on a continuous basis, to make sure that we can confirm them with new concept that we have in mind. And it was a way for the product designer here to use a free exploration and the prototype. So sharing the maze link instead of the Figma link to make sure that she could record every interaction made within the prototype. So where the user clicked when he was sharing the prototype through the moderated interviews. So we used our own tool also to conduct the interviews and to gather all the qualitative feedback. But it was also a way to use the report from the unmoderated prototype, such as Sarah presented you earlier, to get the different interaction and the quantitative KPIs, such as the click heat maps, the navigation path, the rating, and the concept preferences. So it was a way to combine both the real-time questions and the qualitative feedback that we can get about their impressions, but also a way to keep track of the interaction. And this wouldn't be possible with a simple Figma link, because you can't record the interaction, a part of the video recording, of course. Then regarding the goal-based, it's more useful if you want to evaluate specific interaction or core features. So you want, for example, easily collect quantitative data such as success rate, usability score, and misclick rates. And also if you want to distinguish between direct and indirect success and the participant who failed, for example. So if you follow an exact path, it can be considered as a direct success when participants follow this specific path that you created and that you anticipated. And because you can see the progression from screen A to screen B and not the hotspot used to get there. So it's useful when you care and easily want to distinguish the result between the direct and the indirect success if you want to be in more granular details, of course. If you reach a specific screen, it's gonna give you, a global success rate, but it's really helpful if you don't want to dig deeper and if you want to have this global overrate score, of course. So the first use case that I have in mind and I wanted to share with you is the fact that we wanted to test a recent solution that we delivered in our product to filter the sessions based on the metadata. So in this case, we use a screen-based success because we wanted to just detect how many people, what is the sharing part of the participant who successfully reach out the final screen, because we didn't add that much, path to follow. It was quite straightforward, but we wanted to see how many people, succeeded, to accomplish this task in comparison of the global amount of participants. So here we ask them, to filter the results and to use a specific filter, and then we compared, the result in the end. After this task, we conducted also a card sorting exercise to identify and to understand what are the participant mental models for categorizing, the different filters. So here it's also a way to show you that it's not just about the prototype. You can also mix the different block type that we have in our product to have mixed method, within the same study. Also, we use that in a non-moderated way, and we recorded the people, so that why you can see, the face of the participants. I've seen a question also in the chat. You can define what you record. If you want to record the face, the microphone and the screen, you can define at a granular detail which one you want to record. In this case, we used everything, so people could also think out loud while doing the usability task, of course. And the last use case that I had in mind, we wanted to test the usability of creating highlight reels in our product. So you can combine different clips of a study to attribute them to a theme and to add some anecdotes, some suggestions, some interpretation that you may have regarding this insight, and to couple the different video clips related to this theme to then be shared with your stakeholders. We wanted to test the different path that we have, because to succeed that in our product, there is different ways to do that. You can do it directly from the participant side, from the highlight reel section area, or directly from the clips at other part of the result. So we wanted to compare the different path And we wanted to have more granular details regarding this direct and indirect success. So this is where Maze is really helpful, because historically we've done that from the beginning to measure the difference between the direct and indirect success, to show exactly if people are going the same way that you anticipated. And it can be an easy way, to just have this global, KPI at a glance, just to define, okay, people anticipated the same path that I had in my case, of course. So here it was a way to just to distinguish the different path in the end, and to also couple this with the clips, as I said earlier, to have the think aloud comment, and to have a stronger detailed feedback collection, of course. Great. These are the use cases that we had internally. So you see that we use our own product, to conduct this. Now we can have time to answer your questions.
Yes, thank you, Mattieu. That was awesome. Before we're about to get into Q&A, and I know there are a lot of them, so we've been trying to answer them as we go. So if you asked a question, you might see a response. Before we get there, we're going to open up a poll. So if we want to know if you want to learn more about Maze. So if you're interested, if you're not currently a customer of Maze, and would like to learn more, a member of our team can contact you after the webinar. So I've just opened up the poll. You can respond to that, and I will leave it open for a bit as we get into our Q&A here. So let me start with the questions that have the most upvotes as I get into Q&A. There was a question about how does AI produce suggestions for follow-up questions and where those are pulling from. I shared an article from our help center about AI because I think that will be the most helpful for you all. But Mattieu, do you have any knowledge to share on how our AI pulls the follow-up questions?
So we are analyzing, the answer given by the participant to define, the question that can help, to uncover the different, the root of, the idea or the problem, of course. So today you can't, drive and frame the AI questions, but we do that in the correct way. You can test it easily. To be honest, it's a really great feature. I'm using it a lot. I know that a lot of our customers are using it also because you can take the advantage of both worlds, from the moderated and unmoderated. It can help you, to dig deeper and not only surfacing, the feedback of the user. And also what I can say more is that AI is trained, to ask the best, follow-up questions. We score it. We improve the prompt also over the time. And we also detect if the user don't want, to answer much more, the AI stop in that case. So of course, when they answer, we analyze the answer, and then we ask the follow-up questions to make sure that it can help you, to detect more insights, of course.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so the next most upvoted question was, is it possible to test a fully developed mobile app instead of a prototype? The short answer to this is not today. This is definitely something that we are exploring for our roadmap for 2025. So definitely encourage you to stay tuned. Yeah, Mattieu, anything to add there other than that?
Yes, the only solution that today you can use and that can be helpful is doing it in a moderated way with Maze, because you can screen share, from a mobile. So in that case, it can be a way to do this. You can ask for people to join from the mobile, but in sharing their screen, or you can ask also for people to join on desktop and also on mobile to mirror their screen, or to screen share directly from it. So most of the time, our current customers are using, prototype testing. You can still, conduct mobile prototype tests in our product. But if you want to conduct on a live app, today is the best solution that we have is the moderated interview studies. But we are working on that, so I can't say much more for the moment.
Awesome. The next one is it possible to test live websites instead of Figma prototypes too? And the answer to that is yes, we do have live website testing for desktop, as we just talked about mobile apps. But yes, you can test live websites with Maze. Okay. Here's one. How do you account for people who may have left the prototype test due to just losing interest or not, I have lost it, or not being truly involved as a tester, as opposed to there being anything wrong with the prototype? They'd still be shown up as mission unfinished, etc. So, and I'll say my answer, and Matthew, you can add. So we have filters in our results data. So one of the ways that you can filter is by duration. So if somebody clicked through your prototype suspiciously fast, you could filter out anyone that clicked through really fast. Also, if any other kind of indicators from other questions that they answered, you can use those to filter out kind of those bad results. Mathieu, anything that you would add from your experience?
Yes, you can also filter, the different click directly from the heat map results. If, for example, you want to avoid and identifying if people were curious, with the prototype and if they clicked everywhere before going in doing the task. And for the one who failed, also regarding the prototype task, it's possible to use the conditions and say if someone just failed, the task, you can ask a specific follow-up question to those people. So, for example, if you have someone who just abandon, the task, you can just ask, why did you experience that way? And you can ask much more, follow-up questions to detect what is the reason behind, this failure, of course, if it was related to the prototype itself or if it was related to the participant. If the participant is not good, which can happen sometimes, among your users, or it's something that you can also delete the session if you don't want to impact your results, of course. It can be a way to filter the bad one. But for the other one who just hesitated or it was unclear for them, you can just ask follow-up questions or filter the result as you suggested, Sarah, to uncover what would explain, those negative aspects.
Awesome. Thank you. Another one that I'm going to throw at you, Mathieu. We're designing for mobility, vision, and hearing impaired users. What's your accessibility support for screen readers?
To be honest, I'm not sure to answer to that one. We may have, we are working on the accessibility aspect, and here I don't have any specific detail about it. We need to double check, and I'm pretty sure that we could have an App Center article about that.
Okay, I'll check in the Help Center and get back to the person who asked this question. A couple more heavily upvoted. How are the heat maps made when the participants scroll the prototype pages or they're interactive or fixed elements? Can I see where he or she has concentrated their attention and click with a reliable heat map, or I have to deal with a not coherent result?
So the heat map works with different elements of your prototype. It works also with the interactive component, if that's the question. If you want to see the concentration of people, the best is to use the video clips. So it's a combination. The heat map is really quantitative. It's gonna help to see at a glance where people clicked and how many people also clicked in that screen or during that path. But if you want to see the behavior in which order people are navigating, if they hesitated, if the mouse just stopped at a moment of the tester session, the best is to use the video clips and the screen recording just to uncover that.
Awesome, great suggestion. Can you create research reports directly in Maze to share results? Yes, we didn't have time to show it in the demo today, but every single Maze or interview study in Maze is going to come with an automatically generated report. So for those prototype tests, for example, the report would have, those different user journey maps, the Sankey diagram, and all of those success metrics and everything you need. So for each question in your Maze, you'd have a slide, and they're all shareable. Either with a link embedded into your collaboration tools, or you can share with, you can download them as a PDF. So a lot of different ways to share those results. We definitely don't want you to have to go make a slide deck after you've done all your research work. So it's all there for you in Maze. Awesome. Let's see. We have a lot of questions. I want to make sure we're answering different ones. Is the variant comparison within subjects? If so, is it counterbalanced? Do you want to take this one, Matthew?
So yes, I tried to explain it during the earlier in the webinar, but in Maze, you can define if you attribute a single, version to a group of people, or if the totality of participants will see every variant. So you can test up to 5 variants. So we have what we call, the exclusive comparison, where you're gonna attribute, for a group of people, just one version. And for the alternative, comparison, so we attribute every variant in different orders, just to make sure that we avoid, the biases in the results. So this is what you can call with within and between subjects, etc. We just use, a simpler vocabulary to make sure that it's clear for everyone, even for non-specialized researcher.
Awesome, thank you. Let's see. Definitely a lot of questions on mobile, but we've answered those. So mobile is definitely something, if you asked a question on mobile, it's something that we're looking at very deeply for 2025. So there are a bunch in that category. Let's see. Someone said, what if we have members we want to test and not just random people? Can we just get a link and share it to our members? Yes, absolutely. So there's, we didn't talk much about recruitment today, but there's 3 different ways in Maze that you can recruit with your own customers or community. So one is the direct link, which I used today. So you could put that in an email and social media, wherever you're going to, in Slack, wherever you're going to find those testers. The second one is what we call an in-product prompt. So that is a pop-up that will show up on your website to recruit participants for your maze. So that can help you find your own customers. And then the third one is a part of our platform called Reach. So this is where you can upload testers. So if you have, a list of contacts that you that are known testers or participants to your company, you can upload that into Maze and use Maze to reach out to them over email and track their engagement with Maze. So a lot of different ways to share with people not just random participants from a panel. Let's see. Let's go with how best to deal with cases where the customer stumbles upon success rather than naturally. Will AI pick up on this? I don't know, Mattieu, if you have a best practice there.
No, to be honest, I don't have any. The best is to observe, the session and see how people interacted. If they, try to complete the task in a natural way, if they are really rigorous and trying to help you and not rushing, the task, of course. For sure, we don't use AI to detect that today. We know that for the panel participant, we monitor the quality of them, the time that they spend, the think out loud rate that they are using also when Clips is enabled. So we are monitoring the quality with the panel providers that we have to make sure that we avoid these cases. If it's the case, you can still report a participant, and then we can refund you, and you can have another and better participant. But most of the time, it's not happening because we are monitoring it in a really great way. And if it's happening among your customers, this could happen. Then what I can just, suggest is to observe, digging deeper, the results, and to filter them, to delete, the session if it's impacting your results, and if you detected someone that is not doing it seriously, of course.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Another question, can you capture users' email and target them for a follow-up study, like an interview? Mathieu, do you have a best practice for how to do this?
So you can use Reach for that. If you upload, the participant into Maze, and if you send an email campaign through Maze, we can automatically attribute, the email of the participant within the results. So we display it automatically. And if you don't use Reach, for that, and if you're using another tool outside of Maze, to collect the email, it's possible to push the email into a parameter that is linked into the URL. So we have a Help Center article also to explain that. But it can be a way to push the information as a metadata. So as in the participant, result page, you can push as many metadata you want that is part of the URL. So if you're using an email campaign tool, and if you can automatically, push the email, for example, or a tester ID, whatever you want in this URL, you can, display it also directly into Maze. So this can be a way. Or also another way that some of our customers are using is to directly ask, the email at the beginning of the test. Sometimes they are using it because it can be also a way to incentivize people, of course. So these are the different approaches.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I think I'll take this last one. Says, can we get an executive summary page for unmoderated results? Our team is definitely doing some research on the unmoderated results and reporting. So this is definitely under consideration. Mattieu, do you have any kind of workarounds or tips on an executive summary type page for unmoderated?
In the report that we automatically generate for you, it's also possible to edit it. So on the top right, you can edit the different slide that you have, and you can also create slide. So if you want to create a slide with text and some executive, comment and summary, it's possible to do that manually speaking.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I think we got to the vast majority of questions. Actually, I see one. Is every test recorded, or are there options for turning audio, video, screen recordings off? Yes, those are totally optional. You can turn off the settings one by one, the screen, audio, and video. So if you just want to record audio or you just want to record screen, you can do that, or you can turn them all off. So there's granular customizations there. But I think we have reached the end of our session and we answered most of your questions. So if you have, if someone say, can you explain the difference between screeners and not screeners? That is just if you add a screener block to your maze to automatically filter out participants based on a criteria. It is just a certain type of block. And if you're hiring panel testers, it impacts the number of credits that it will cost. So that's the main difference between using screeners and not screeners. But yeah, we've reached the top of the hour here. So we're going to end it. But thank you all so much for joining. You'll get the recording in your inbox tomorrow. And we really appreciate you taking the time today. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.